Welcome back, everybody. Derrick Sue, your East Oakland advocate. Well, today I'm going to talk about a very personal and emotional topic. I'm going to talk about my PTSD, and then also I'm going to compare it to depression. And there's a difference, but here's the big thing. The medical field, psychiatry, uses a lot of the same medications to treat PTSD as they do with depression. And I'm going to get into that today because a little bit ago, a little better than a week ago, a person triggered my PTSD. And my PTSD is unique and different in the sense that it did not come from the violence of my work in counterterrorism. It actually, my PTSD, I'm still having some effects from the Zoloft, folks. So, bear with me. I'm trying to stay focused, and that's one of the things about the medication and why I delayed putting it off for a little better than a week now since being triggered, because I was really going to go on a rant about this person, and I thought better to keep my mouth shut for the moment rather than going off and saying a whole bunch of things that I may regret later. And then anyway, the next day, I ended up having my open Zoloft prescription filled, and so was on that, and it's a horrible medication, and unfortunately it's one of the better medications. Even though I don't like it, it was one of two medications that I took. The first one made me more prone to violence. So anyway, today I'm going to talk about PTSD, and I'm also going to add in the importance of emotional support animals for those with PTSD, because if you have PTSD, there's two types of there's several different types of PTSD. There's the one it really centers around your fight or flight mindset. And so for those that have flight, this can be very traumatic in the sense that it can cause very high anxiety, panic attacks, sweating profusely in fear. Fear itself can be a killer too, and a primary cause of aneurysms and also heart attacks. So PTSD has a lot of different ways to kill you indirectly, as long and directly. My PTSD actually was caused by living homeless on the street, and then also that PTSD and mixed in with my depression from losing all of my money back in 2008 helped me get on Social Security disability, because my depression is a disability when it was as high as it was, and I was seeing Social Security backed psychologist who was with me up until his cancer diagnosis on himself. And so I was actually under his care for nearly 3 years before I was transferred to another doctor. But anyway, he diagnosed me with PTSD caused by stress and trauma that I experienced living on Oakland streets as a homeless person. And so my first documentation was I had first moved, started living on Oakland streets, March of 2014. And in July of that year, just 4 months, 4 months down the road, that I was attacked by 3 out-of-town youths that were using the BART system as their getaway vehicle. They would come into Oakland, commit their crimes, or murder people, because that was the full intent, with what they were doing, what they did to me, because they ambushed me in the dark and hit me with a baseball bat. And that's part of the scar right there. And I was able to get my hands up to block some of that baseball bat swing, which really bruised my arms. And so it was a very painful experience. It was very traumatic. I ended up with 4 stitches right there at the hospital the next morning. I didn't go that night, and police were there. We got a report. The 3 teens were apprehended eventually in Antioch, which is where they live. And they were using the BART system back then, so that there was essentially no detail or no record of them coming in and out of Oakland, and not an Oakland resident. But they knew Oakland because they were former Oakland residents and problem children of Oakland. And so anyway, getting back to the PTSD, that was the first step, and that was in 2014. Then we go, I was fortunate to have people around me, plus I also had my pit bull. My pit bull, or actually my Staff, American Staffordshire Terrier, she actually was the one who distracted the 3 that were intending to kill me enough so that I could get back into the fight and fight, one eye, and take on 2 while she took out 1. And that's how I survived that. And she was slightly injured, but I was the one with the real big gash in my head. In fact, the bat hit me with so much impact that it split the flesh here all the way to the bone. You literally saw my skull on the other side in the opening. And then at the hospital, it was interesting on that one. The doctor, I told him what I needed and what happened, and he's looking at me like, "You have medical training?" I said, "I have some." And so anyway, he was going to numb up the air. I said, "No, I really need to get back to my place. Just stitch me up so that I can get going." He said, "It's going to hurt." I said, "No, it's not. I'm a mixed martial arts specialist. I can block out a tremendous amount of pain." And I said, also, the damage up there, the baseball bat destroyed the nerve ending, so I had no feeling in that opening anyway. And so he was very nervous, and so were the nurses, because they just went ahead, put the stitches in, and I'm just standing there and I'm not flinching. And I said, "Wow, you really aren't feeling anything." I said, "I feel the tugging and you tightening it up, but yeah, that's about it." So anyway, that was event number 1, and that was 2014. Event number 2 came in 2017. And these, again, this was neighborhood teenagers that were taunting and robbing and beating up the homeless back then in the area. And so they were trying to lure me out of my shelter, and I wouldn't bite. And so finally ended up, one decided that he was going to come in, and then he ended up looking down the barrel of my gun. And I didn't fire. I had the trigger already pulled. Another half a second, he would have had a 9 going through his head and possibly into his buddies right behind him that were coming in. And so that was number 2. And there was another person who was here who witnessed that, but unfortunately He passed on in 2017. But a lot of deaths occur. And then also in 2015, I was a witness to an actual execution and murder up by the East Oakland Community Project Crossroads homeless shelter. Right across the street from them, a person was murdered right there on 76th Avenue. And it was a car drove up, didn't call out anything. A person's just standing there. All of a sudden, it's like he knows who that car and person is, and just started moving, and they downed him right there, and bullets went right by me. I was only in the area because I was walking my dog at the time, and I still had a lot of close friends that were staying at the shelter, but I actually witnessed that murder execution that night, and then I was able to come back an hour later when the police were doing their investigation, and I stepped up and gave them a lot of information. Plus, it was verified by the cameras in the area, and they eventually did catch the shooter on that one. But that was a very traumatic thing, even though that was only 50 feet from me. Did I say 50 feet from me? And bullets were whizzing literally right by my head. So that was a very traumatic scene. That was 3 now of the traumas. And so that really nailed down and embedded the PTSD that I have now on a lot of things. And those are just the early events. And then we had one of the conversation was about some false advocates here in Oakland and what they do. And then it's not so much them that is the actual problems, it's the people that they know. And the people that they know, their cohorts, those are the ones that you have to watch out for, because those are the ones that typically go unnoticed in law enforcement. And so anyway, I had, because of some things that I rub some people the wrong way, and I do it in a fashion so that they understand that there isn't any misunderstanding. You're not going to be using this community to do bad things. And if you do bad things happen to you here. And so one of those characters took that back to West Oakland. West Oakland started invading my camp. And in fact, if you go back on some of the videos, you'll see some of the car thieves that get apprehended, the shootings, and one person was shot in the neck. He was actually one of those that deserved it. And I ended up shooting several people and making sure that they were no longer a problem. And so that's why we have, when this person triggered my PTSD, it all brought that back from when it really peaked out in 2021. It really peaked out in 2021. And this person who was giving me so-called friendly advice and just needs to mind his own goddamn business on that, because he has no idea what I've been through, the traumas that I've survived. And these are just the simple ones that I'm mentioning, and the gunplay that ends up happening, and why I have so much PTSD, and why I reacted the way that I reacted, which was cutting this person off completely, because it triggered me. And now I have to take these medications, which now I'm going to get into why I don't like Zoloft. At first, I was on another medication. Let's see, what was it called? Anyway, a Celexa. and what the generic name was citalopram. And what it does, it's a SSRI, which is, let's see, well, it's one of the FDA approved SSRI, and it's considered most well tolerated antidepressant. Has the fewest side effects, and that includes Zoloft. Zoloft is in there. There's quite a few medications, but Celexa, citalopram, made me violent. And I put a person in the hospital because of that medication. And the reason why I was not charged or anything was because I was just put on that medication. It hadn't even been 72 hours, and it was verified through my psychiatrist at the time of the medication and the length of time that I've only been on it. And so they dropped everything, let it go. That person did deserve what I ended up doing to them because they kicked my dog. And that was the primary reason that triggered me on that one. Well, that was one of the side effects. Then they moved me to Zoloft. Well, both of the common thread on both of those medications is that they're supposed to work on a portion of your memory to make you temporarily lose memory. Temporarily lose memory. So that's why you see a lot of veterans that look like zombies, because they're on a lot of these medications. And then if they have side effects, then they have medications that the VA to deal with those side effects. Well, and now you wonder why they act crazy. If they're on their medication, they act crazy or like zombies, pretty much, because a lot of the veterans that I visited in the area, there were a lot of group homes, a lot of fellas that were from the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, and also the Coasties. So I knew a lot of veterans that were in these homes, and I sometimes visit them just to see how many pills they're taking 3 times a day. Well, several of them, excuse me, several of them, 23 to 27 pills. And most of those pills were for dealing with side effects of the side effects of the side effects. And so I really hate the side effects of Zoloft, because what happens with Zoloft is that it makes you forget. And I couldn't even remember what happened an hour ago if I'm still awake. And Zoloft makes you very, very drowsy. And so you're typically asleep at least 8 hours and possibly up to 12. And if I'm drugged like that and I'm sound asleep like that and you're homeless, you're going to get killed. You're going to get murdered in your sleep. And that's a lot of times what happens. Or if you're burned up they find you burned up, that's could be the reason why, because these medications, they make you sleep so hard you can't wake up, and then when you are up, you can't remember what you did an hour ago, let alone last week. So anyway, depression is different. Depression is brought on by a lot of different things, and my depression was from going from place in society where it was highly valued and seen as a goal to achieve, and so when I lost that and literally ended up living on the street, it was embarrassing, and it destroyed my ego. I mean, it's a destroyer of dreams, a destroyer of hope, destroyer of everything. And so depression is very common, unfortunately, out on the streets because it doesn't go diagnosed. And the times that it does go diagnosed and the medications that are given for that, and the side effects are devastating. And like my friend said, I would much rather be drinking beer and getting high rather than taking my depression medications and I can't wake up. And so these are the makings of a zombie. And if you remember last week or 2 weeks ago, I talked about Oakland's zombie apocalypse. This is it. It's already here. They're already on the streets. They're in San Francisco, they're in Oakland, San Leandro, they're everywhere. And you have veterans, you have folks being diagnosed with PTSD, and these are the common treatments. Hopefully, with these medications, like I did, I had a psychiatrist who was seeing me every month and making sure I was okay and checking, sometimes making a phone call if he had some questions about, my mental condition, or somebody from the staff call and check on me. And these were all important things. These are part of the continuum of care that I have to stay with here in Alameda County, because a lot of folks say, well, why don't you just move out of Oakland, move out of California? Well, if I move out of Alameda County, number one, I lose all my maintenance and upkeep for my cancer, because I poop in a bag now, and those bags are provided through Alameda County healthcare services. And then my medications, for high blood pressure, for my diabetes, and also my ongoing medications for Zoloft in the event that some jerk off triggers me, like what happened last week or week before. And so these are things that I have to stay here. Costs of housing is nothing compared to dealing with healthcare. If I leave this healthcare system here, the county healthcare system, I am royally screwed, because if I move to another state, I won't be covered. I already experienced that in North Carolina. So all of my paid medical that I paid for over a year in advance was worth nothing, worth absolutely nothing in North Carolina. No coverage other than patch me up and put me on a plane and you can go back to California and get fixed. That's how the medical industry works. And folks, you need to understand that. Once you're in a situation like me where you have regular maintenance and upkeep, and then doctors checkups for the annuals on my cancer, and then also all of my medical records are right here in the county. They can be transferred, but it can take days and weeks outside of California. One of the things that I helped put in place was a new system called Epic in the healthcare system in Alameda County, and that sped the transfer of information from one hospital to another in minutes, just by simply putting in some basic information of the patient. Those records can be accessed and updated and those are, a lot of times, that could be very important, life-sustaining information that will either save your life or the doctors may end up accidentally killing you. So PTSD, not good. And the problem with that, it's a trauma-based mental condition. And so that will never go away until the person's dead. Like a person who was a victim of a violent crime, a shooting, sexual assault, anything. Those are also forms of PTSD for you. And if you have PTSD and you are homeless, please seek out legal assistance to help you get the medical help that you need. And then also get on Social Security disability insurance. I had plenty of reasons for SSDI to cover me because of my depression. I had severe major depression, and then also my PTSD. Plus, I was on medication while under the first doctor's care, and that's what assured my disability insurance. And once I reached my age of 62, I was able to move into my Social Security, which actually raised me up. But then with the cost of living and everything, canceled all that out. So hopefully that helps you folks. If you have any questions or anything, please leave them in the comment. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe. This helps everybody else out. PTSD, it is horrible, and in my case, I don't go into a fear flight. I go into a fight flight, and the smallest things will trigger me, and so that's why I have to have these medications on hand, and I have to be careful of being triggered. And then once I'm triggered, literally there's no negotiation with me. And so that's the thing that we also have to take into account with those that have mental issues. Sometimes they're just in a state where nothing is negotiable. I've been there. Thanks for joining me today. We'll be right back.